The brand new Exodia archetype out of Infinite Forbidden is incredibly strong, and I expect to see it being used as an engine in the upcoming future with its release in Infinite Forbidden. Infinite Forbidden is the core set coming out in July, and within it is a whole deck built around Exodia the Forbidden One. It includes a new fusion monster, a fusion spell, as well as a supporting bunch of Millennium monsters that are supposed to replicate the show how the ancient Egyptians summoned monsters from their stone slabs. And it's those monsters, the Millennium monsters, that I think are going to be extremely important in the TCG. And not because the Exodia deck itself is going to be particularly strong, but because as an engine, these Millennium cards offer a wide variety of uses. I'm going to read the 4 most important Millennium cards to you and show you why this engine will be one of the strongest of the 2024 season. First off, we got the Caveman that awoke after Millennium. It's important to note that all these cards in the archetype are retrains of old vanilla monsters. This one is a retrain of Sengajin. That is the only card in this archetype to not contain Millennium in the name. So all the cards will mention Millennium or Sengajin, so we'll just get used to that. But also these all share a couple gimmicks. Once we get into the effect, we'll take a look. And all these monsters also share the same stat line as the retrain. So just like Sengajin, we get a Beast Warrior here that's level 8 with 2,750 attack points, and it's an Earth. A solid stat line, but the effect is where it's good. So you can only use the first and second effect once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can place it face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. Weird how with the Snake Eyes, we're getting to this trend of putting monsters into the back row. Traps aren't going there anymore. It's time for some monsters to go there. If this card is a continuous spell, you can pay 2,000 life points or reveal a Millennium Cross from your hand. That card is the fusion spell that we're not going to play because it requires you to run all 5 Exodia pieces, and we're not doing that. And then special summon this card. Then you can add a Millennium monster or a Sengajin from your deck to your hand. Now, it's important to know that add is all part of one effect. When you summon it, they can't use infinite impermanence or effect failure. It's searching while it's in the spell and trap card zone. That does, however, mean that it is weak to Ash Blossom, because if it gets Ash Blossomed while in the spell and trap card zone, you will lose the body and the search. A bit of an up and down. It's a bit of a trade-off. But that's the gimmick that 3 main monsters share. That you can put them from your hand into the spell and trap card zone, and from there, they'll come out like you're summoning them from the stone slab. And it's a free summon. Now you'll notice there aren't restrictions on there, but I'm not done reading yet. And the third effect here is it cannot be destroyed by monster effects. That last effect is not super important. It does mean something like Promethean Princess can't threaten this, which is neat. That's not why you play it. Here, this is just a monster that summons itself for free. No normal summon required. Pay 2,000, but by Yu-Gi-Oh standards, that's pretty free. And then you get to add another card back to your hand. So assuming you can add something good, that's quite powerful, right? We're seeing this as pretty much Speedroid Terratop, a card that was defining for a long time, and at least by the time I'm making this video, it's still semi-limited. Now, it's at 3 in Master Duel, but the card is very good, and even in Master Duel, where it's at 3, it's not like a card that's unplayable. It's very strong, and if we're getting something potentially better than that, then we're in for a wild ride. But we have to talk about the other cards here, because the biggest thing here is it adds another Millennium card next to your hand. So what are we adding? The other main one you want to add is the Golem that guards the Millennium treasures. This is a retrain of Millennium Golem, a vanilla from, I can't even tell you where it's from. I truthfully don't know. Sengajin I can at least know is from a premium pack, but this is a monster I did not recognize. However, I see that Eye of Horus on there, and that's good enough for me to know it's a Millennium card. Anyways, Millennium Golem does very similar things. You only use the first and second effect once per turn. If it's in your hand, put it down in the spell trap card zone, and then you can pay 2k or reveal Millennium Cross. Again, you're only really doing the first one, and summon itself out. And then you can add a Temple of the Stone Slabs from your deck to your hand. All right, so hold on. Now we have another Terratop. That is assuming, however, that the last card, the Temple of the Stone Slabs, is actually a good card. So we'll get to that. And then the third one is the activation of your Millennium Cross cannot be negated. You can take this a step further in the intended theme and play with Millennium Cross and the Exodia cards. However, I just really don't like the idea of playing 5 Exodia pieces in your deck if you're not trying to actually assemble them together to form that win condition. And it's a whole bunch of other cards in the archetype that really try and push that, and I think it's not worth it. So I'm going to stick with just the cards that we're going to be using. Just like how we said it's important to understand how good of the card we're searching is from Sengajin's case, what about the Golem's case? What are we adding off this? Temple of the Stone Slabs is a field spell. During mid-phase, you can place a monster from your hand, face them in spell trap card zone as a continuous spell. Then place a Millennium or a Sengajin from your deck in your spell trap card as a continuous spell. And then if a face-up Millennium monster or Sengajin you control by battle card effects, you can put it back into your back row instead of letting it grave. Like crystal beast, whatever. That effect is not super important. The biggest thing here is at the price of like essentially discarding a card, although slightly different, you can place any of your Millennium monsters from your deck in Spell and Trap card zone. Now, that's not fantastic. It is a neg one because you're playing the one card and then ditching another card just to summon a body. But it does extend your plays, right? Assuming there's more Millennium cards, this is decent value. And it means that if you open up Millennium Golem, you can get Golem to search the Temple, and then Temple can get your Sangajin. And then the Sangajin will search another monster. Now, I did say there were 4 cards I want to talk about, so there's one other one here, and that is Millennium Shield, or Shield of the Millennium Dynasty is this one. Retrain of that good old Millennium Shield that was never playable, the 3000 defense vanilla. And it shares the stat line again, so cool, 3k defense. This card does not get first stat line, but sure. So just like the others, you can place it in the Spell and Trap card zone, and then pay 2k, comes out, or heal Millennium Cross. And then when you summon this card, you add a Millennium Cross from your deck to your hand. You can, you don't have to. And it cannot be destroyed by Spell and Trap card effects. Millennium Cross, again, that's the fusion spell for the Exodia card, and it requires you to run a whole bunch of other things. So that's why I said it matters what you're searching. In this case, this effect is just summoning itself. This is your Tech and Tomborg of the deck. It's not as bad because if you don't have a wind like Tech and Tomborg, you can just summon this out. But if you're playing this as an engine and not as a deck, then you're not playing Millennium Cross. This card is just summoning itself as a level 5. It's the same as playing Garbage Lord or Instant Fusion for generic level 5. It's not anything to go crazy about. And its third effect, Combo Choice Spell and Traps, also doesn't matter. However, the trend here is you can play a package of 1 shield and 1 temple, your 2 bricks in the deck. Although neither are real bricks, they both do have some sort of playability by themselves. And then you got 6 of the Golem and 6 of the Sangajin. Because if you open up either of the good ones, you're going to summon one, then either get the temple or the Golem. And then temple or the Golem will either get the other temple or it'll get the Sangajin. And either way, pretty much by playing either one of those starters, plus discarding a card, you're putting in the Spell and Trap card zone, you get 3 monsters on the field. 3 monsters with no restrictions. They don't lock you out for the rest of the turn. And you have not committed your normal summon. The stat line is pretty good too. If you look at all these monsters, they have a variety of levels, a variety of types. They're all Earth, and they got some decent attack points. For example, like the Sangajin could force through Appaloosa pretty easily. If your opponent has an Appaloosa with a Princess engraved, it doesn't do anything. You can actually beat it, which is really funny. However, they're probably just going to Appaloosa the effect in hand, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Over the field spell, now we're talking. Anyways, let me show you some actual replays where I go through some potential options with these cards so you can get a better idea of what I see and their potential. Okay, so let's look at what we can do with one of our golems. Now, again, it's pretty simple. You're going to put in the Spell Trap card zone, you pay 2k, summon it out, get the temple. Bit of a translation kind of mix up right now. We're not sure what it's going to be called yet. Trying to wedge you was another potential OCG translation. Again, all these names are guesses at this point. They're not like set in stone. Anyways, so this will place a random card in Spell Trap card zone. That's not an activation for the Marshmallow. I'm just trying to put in the Spell Trap card zone and I misclick. And then you put the Sangajin, and the Sangajin will come out, and you get to the shield. Then you put the shield down, and this is super simple. You can see all the bodies are here already. Now, one of the things you can do that's cool is these are different level of monsters. You can make Puzzle Amino. What is Puzzle Amino? Puzzle Amino requires 2 monsters with different levels. If a monster is summoned to a zone it points to, down in this case works pretty well, like a Sunlight Wolf, then you can declare level from 1 to 8, and the monster you summon to that zone becomes a level. And also some other pop effect. The main thing here is it gives you level manipulation. So depending on the needs of your combo, you can play around it. And a very simple one is make Gigantic Sprite. You can summon out your guy here and make it level 2, and bam, Gigantic Sprite. This forces them to Nibiru on the effect here. If you're playing a Sprite deck, whatever, this could be cool for forcing through interactions immediately. It's a way to get to Gigantic. You can do some combos here. And Gigantic is an insane card, and you can go through so many different possibilities in terms of what's a good option off of Gigantic here. But just like a simple potential option is make B-Cop, and then B-Cop Diabellstar, and then, haha, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fun. This is not, but it is an option, so we'll talk about it. And that is just one option. What else can we do? Not everything is going to require us to summon something first. We could get to this point, all 3 monsters in field. We could threaten battle phase, whatever necessary, but say we're going first. What else can we do? In Master Duel or an OCG, you can summon Curious. Yeah, these are all different types and all the same attribute. So this is nuts. And if I'm playing Master Duel, this is what I'm looking to do. Curious is broken. One of my absolute favorite cards, very good, and deserves to be banned in the TCG. Rightfully so, it's earned its place. I'd say Beatrice should be there as well, but maybe I'll get in trouble with that. I love Beatrice as well, don't get me wrong. But either way, yeah, and eventually when this comes to Master Duel, this will be a very viable option. Curious is insane, and with Fairy Tale Snow as well, you have plenty flexible options. So yeah, but there's other options beside that. One other Master Duel option or CG option is making SP, and then take a look. One is Warrior, another Warrior, and Isold. Just take that in. In these Goki or Infinable decks, how much would we have killed the ability to play an Isold engine with very little downside that could summon Isold without a single normal summon? That is fantastic. Now, in Infernoble, it's a bit weird because by paying 6,000 life points, you're making it hard to use Museum. You can use Museum once. However, if you have multiple Museum, it gets a bit dicey, right? Unless we have a way to regain life points, which there are cards that do, but awkward. Still, Isold on normal summoning is a lot of potential, and Isold is not confined to Infernoble decks, as we've seen in the Yu-Gi-Oh's long history with this card. Again, very deservedly banned in the TCG. I've been calling it for years, and I'm happy this is gone. This one would be very toxic. Even if you're playing a generic combo deck, Isold for Dolphin, without normal summoning, I don't want to get into that. Let's not imagine those days. Sorry, OCG, if that ever happens to you. Other options here too, though. Again, we're not locked into anything specific. We can go very flexible with our plays here. You can make random Link to Fire, and then turn that into Princess, and then Princess, bring that back. The Midnight here is kind of like Disruption, kind of like Follow, but it's nothing brilliant. But we get a Whale here. This isn't anything flashy. This is just Anvil Whale, the Princess Engrave. But that's not bad. Nothing to be super excited over, but it's solid. Especially if we're not using a normal summon. And what else can we do? There's some other cool stuff too. What if you just make any generic Link 2 again? And this is good for pressuring fields, right? Say you're playing against the Snake Eye field, and their IP's in Spell Trap Card Zone, so they don't get a chance to Appo you immediately. This card will get put in the Spell Trap Card Zone, and if they SP you straight away, then fine. But if they decide to hold the SP, because they think this random extension engine isn't really worth trying to hunt down, then you can summon this guy out. They can't Princess use you again, and you keep extending. Say they want to keep holding, then you can make SP. Now, if they try and bring back their IP from Spell Trap Card Zone, bad, rough. Now, the funny part is, though, as the Flamebridge can summon from either person's Spell and Trap Card Zone, when you activate one of these effects, they can forego their IP and actually just steal your monster, which is probably the best form of interruption for them, but it is funny. That's like a thing that can happen. But anyway, said we link past here, we can make Sprint. Now, remember, I said this is an engine, not a deck, so what decks may I want to use this in? And here's a good example, because I'll show you later how some of the other synergies work out too, even with just this. Or even if you want to play this in some other deck with a very specific case, you'll see what I'm talking about. You can Sprint and send Merlia from deck to grave. Now, because we made a dark with the SP, we can put this back and make Muddragon. And this may not seem that crazy, but if you're playing a deck that's weak to Imperm and you want a way to force Imperm out, you have something that is playable going second because it puts body in the field, and flexible going first because it doesn't just do one thing. However, when you go first and you open up like your standard one card starter that's weak to Imperm plus your Millennium cards, let's make Muddragon. And now you can't target me. And these are toxic applications, like a mid-breaker field type situation, but that is very valuable. And there's a very good chance that is a decent option to play around these target type effects, assuming they continue to stay popular. And it can be very format dependent, but this is good, right? Because now obviously this would eat an Imperm on the Sprint. That'd make the most sense. But then you'd be more free to play with your other cards. And I think that is solid. There are other options as well, and you're not locked into just one play. Like it's only Sprint. The point here is it's relatively flexible. Anyways, let's push on because there are more things you can do with this. It's important to grasp that when I'm talking about using it as an engine, again, I'm not talking about it in the context of just by itself in the deck. The strongest times with engines, either you have an archetype that meshes very well with it, or you're mixing a bunch of very powerful engines together, really push the limits in terms of the generic extra deck monsters that are available to us. And in this case, I'm talking about the Diabellstar Snake Eye package. Now, even if you're not mixing it with Snake Eyes, or you're just mixing with some sort of fire engine in search of Diabellstar, there are plenty of options. And one of the cool interactions that I noticed is specifically when you open up Sangagen, you can do something cool. So you can do the normal Sangagen line here. Now, obviously, you can send off stuff for Diabellstar, some of the spells and trap cards, like this Dead Stone Temple, the Wedju, or whatever, or monster like Marshmallow here that you're going to place in Spell Trap Card Zone. That could be great fodder for your Snake Eye cards, your Sinful Spoils, or your Black Witch. Something else is cool is say you want to ditch something from your hand instead. You can get to this point, and you want to hold this here to play around to Nibiru, because you're going to be open to Nibiru in a second. And you summoned 3 times, you already summoned 5 before you make Appaloosa, and you can make Selene. And this is cool. You have 3 spells and traps, right? You got the Temple, and you got the 2 monsters treated as spell cards. And you can revive the Diabellstar, and wow, look at that. Fantastic. Appaloosa, and you see it's pretty obvious. That can pay 2k, some of the stuff out. So Appaloosa plus a body, still have the Sinful Spoil, and then you can get Poplar, which can get the Divine Temple, and then Ash can send off the next card, get Flameburge, and you can see how you're developing this really strong field here. In other cases for it as well, it's like if you normal summon Ash, Snake Eye Ash, and you get Impermed, now this is going to give you access to Princess back the Snake Eye Ash. And then you're also going to give yourself a bunch of field spells, whatever, that you can then sack off for the Ash, keep extending. And you can go even further than that, because you'll still have one extra body, right? Only using two more bodies plus the Ash to make the Princess. It's really interesting here how you're essentially getting 3 bodies without normal summoning with so little commitment. And I really can't underestimate or understate how good of an effect that is, even if you're not thinking in the context of combos, but just like breaking through disruption in fields. 3 free bodies, that's a lot. Now, the iteration of this that I'm most excited for is Tearlament. Now, Tearlament is one of the kings of abusing engines. It's used danger cards, it's used the Shizu cards, we've seen using Horus cards, we've seen using Snake Eye cards in Master Duel, something that I personally enjoy a lot. And I think anything that's graveyard dependent or can just put a bunch of bodies up that are flexible to use, Tear should work pretty well with. So let me show you what you can do with a Revolution Synchron plus a Sengagen. Now, this isn't only usable in Tear. This is a combo we can actually do with a bunch of different decks. But I think it flows very well with Tear and the way you'd already be wanting to play that deck. And you'd also still have access to that Merly stuff like before. It's actually quite good. And this mixed with the Demonsmith or Fiendsmith cards also coming out in Infinite Forbidden, which is another really insane engine. Then Tear, honestly, mixed all this new stuff, could be really, really good. And if you want to see me talk about those new Fiendsmith cards, which albeit are a bit simpler to see the value behind, then let me know, because I can make another video about that in the future. Anyways, pressing forwards here, the play again starts the exact same. We're going to use our free bodies. It doesn't go to grave. Again, just misclick there. Same thing as usual. We're going to pay 6,000 life points and develop 3 bodies. 6,000 life points is a lot. Life points don't matter the most in Yu-Gi-Oh, but you have to be conscious of the fact that you're at 2k life points. It's going to be easier to kill you. And if this does ever become meta, who knows if some cheeky burn stuff will ever enter the game. But we'll be careful. And maybe we'll incorporate some other stuff besides it. And as we get to this point, and as far as Revolution Synchron goes, or any Synchro deck, you have a nice plethora of options here. You have level 5, level 6, and level 8. And Revolution Synchron is cool here, but a bunch of other tuners also have a field day with this. The Red Rose Dragon can be very cool, making immediate 8. If you have the Adamantimated Researcher, you can summon that out because you have a rock and then make a 10, even if you whiff off Researcher. Or you could, I don't know, make Excel Stardust. Either way, you have a lot of plays. What I like about Rev Synchron is it plays pretty straightforward, and still without using a normal summon, you still hold a Rhino follow-up for later. And you can Synchro here and make Stardust Spark Dragon. Now, Stardust Spark Dragon is probably the best level 8 Synchro. Unfortunately, there's nothing good that generates advantage. If you can make Chaos Ruler, oh my god. Like, this would be insane. This would be so broken. Like, this line of play would be so insane with Chaos Ruler that it's actually just mental. But either way, I like making Spark here. Now, if you don't care about the effects but care about the attribute more, you could make Red Dragon Archfiend here. And now why that would be important is because if you get Nibiru here, this would be summon number 4, or you have one more summon. Say you go Rev Synchron next, which is what you would do naturally in the line. Then you get Nibiru, then having the Dark Engrave means that normal summon Rhino Heart threatens making Bahamut Toad, and that is pretty good. Although in terms of actual valuable effect here, I'm choosing Spike Dragon. Not sure if this is correct. Again, that's what actual testing and format dependence would require. But yes, point is here, level 8 Synchro, with most intentions here, no effect, but it's level 8 we can overlay with. Now we can use the Rev Synchron effect to mill, ignore the Snake Eye card here, and Synchro with the level 6 and a level 1 to make Ancient Fairy Dragon. So I know we did this kind of out of order. Normally when you go Revolution Synchron Synchro lines, you go Ancient Fairy first, but here you're doing it in reverse order. That's fine. And the cool part here about this engine is it gives you a field spell. So now we can trade this off and get a planet. And it's something I've wanted to do with the Adventure engine in Tier is search the field spell off Enchantress. However, that whole line of play is just so bad in terms of bricks and whatever, and this flows a lot better. And it gets even better because besides just having a couple of bodies and searching planet, which is nice, and not using a normal summon, and still being able to use a normal summon ability, and still having Ancient Fairy extension, you also just have 2 level 8s in play. So this could turn into something like Kotton Lords to negate monster effects, or honestly, I'm trying to push through their interruptions. Let's make Zombie Vampire. This card is nuts. And again, this is why I say this is not restricted to tiers. You have an Ancient Fairy Dragon trigger plus a rank 8 play with Rev Synchron plus this. all without your normal summon, all without 0 locks in anything you do. Very flexible. It's just in tier, getting to this point with committing so little is incredible. The mill 4, and then afterwards you keep playing on the planet, we'll get Rhino Heart, and you can special it off Ancient Fairy Dragons, you still keep your normal summon, and then you thread in Toad, and then you still have so much more going for you. It's really powerful. And that's the idea that I want to keep developing the most. However, the flexibility of these cards and the fact that there are no restrictions, and they have a wide variety of types and levels, that really are a bunch of different options. So if you see any cool interactions, any cool archetypes, any cool engines that really mesh well with these Millennium cards, please let me know. I'm interested to see how you guys will go about approaching this, and what do you think this engine will do when it comes to the TCG, or even the OCG in the upcoming month. I think this will be very powerful, and I don't think enough people have talked about it because they've been focused on other cards in the set, or it's been overshadowed by the fact that it's an Exodia archetype, and therefore it's a gimmick. But like with the Yubel cards, this is not nostalgia bait. This is actually very good, and I hope I've convinced you of that with this video. Anyways, if you enjoy seeing these type of future thinking type videos where I show you the potential options coming out in the future, then let me know and I'll make more of them as time goes on. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace. Thank you guys for watching the video. A great way to support the channel is to get the TSX1 sleeves on tsx1.com. These are the sleeves I use at every event. They are fantastic quality. They feel really great to shuffle in your hand, your deck, fanning out your grave. They just slide really smoothly, and they last the entire tournament, so you're not compromising quality either. Use the code POTATO10 on the website. You'll get 10% off across everything.